So I'm going to go ahead and launch Access. I have it down here on my taskbar, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And when you get into the Backstage view, you want to just click on Blank Desktop Database. Just single click on it because you do want this little window to show. If you double click on the button, it's a problem because it'll take the default name and put it in the default location, and you won't be able to give it the appropriate name or select the location for the file. So you want to make sure you just single click and you get this little window up, and then you're going to key in RSR Computer Services. And I'm going to click on this Browse button so I can choose a location for this. And I'm going to put it in my Access Level 2 Chapter 1 folder. Okay, so I've got RSR Computer Services. I'm putting it into Access Level 2 Chapter 1. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I'm going to click Create. And just as a double check, make sure you check the name and the location before you click Create. And at this point, I'm going to close out of this table because this particular project deals with database design, table design, and the place that you typically customize the design is in the Tables Design view. So I'm going to go into Create, and I'm going to go directly into Table Design. And from inside Table Design, this is where I'm going to key in all of my fields, and I'm going to select the properties, and I'm going to do some customizing down here in the Field Properties section. So we're going to go ahead and enter our first field. It's Customer ID, so I'm just going to key in the little abbreviation Cust ID, press my Tab key, and short text is fine. I'm going to press Tab 2 more times. And typically what I do is I enter all of the fields and the data types first, and then I go back and select the fields and adjust the field properties. Because just time-wise, it is easiest and fastest to enter the fields using this technique. Because I can just pretty much press Tab right over the data type if it's going to be text. If it was going to be currency, I would actually key in the letter C and start typing it, and it would show up. If it was like a date and time, I could start keying that in, and I don't have to actually click on the list arrow at all. Okay? And the default is short text, and so if that is what you want, you can just tab right over it. So I'm going to quickly enter these. And then I'm going to go back up to Customer ID because they did want that size adjusted. Let's see, street, city, state, and zip. And you'll notice the last one is a yes, no. So I'm just going to do a Y, and that gets me to yes, no. And then at this point, I'm going to go back up to Customer ID because they did want a couple field properties changed. So if I click on Customer ID, I can come down into this field size section, and I drag over that and key in a 4. And let's see, this should also be the primary key. So as long as I'm in this field, I can go ahead and turn on primary key. You see a little key display next to it. And Access does require a primary key. And you'll notice when we went directly into Design View, there are no fields listed. Therefore, there are no primary keys specified. So you purposefully have to set one of the fields as the key. Otherwise, when you go to save, Access has a cow. And if you do this by mistake, you'll see what I mean. It'll just keep displaying little error windows until you give it a key. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. And they would like this one to be called Customers. So I'm going to key that in, click OK. And at this point, they do want me to close the table. And they would like me to go on and create a few more tables, one called Service Contracts, another called Work Orders, another Technician table. And we're going to be using very similar steps to what we just did. And these little tables are in figures. Figure 1-3. Now this is on page 8 of your book. Okay, so there really aren't specific steps listed for this. They just expect you to follow the steps that you used for customers. So I'm going to go into Table Design. And we've got customers. So now I'm going to do the Service Contracts table. Okay, so for this one, looks like Customer ID is going to be the key field. And short text is fine. And then we've got SC no. That's also short text. Now we've got the start date, which is a date. So I'm going to do a D. End date. That is also a date. Then I've got fee paid. And they've got that as currency. Now, as far as adjustments for customer ID, we want a size of 4. And I should point out, because we're doing tables at this point, if you plan on relating tables, the field that you are going to join the tables on should have the same data type and the same size. Okay, so they should be relatively similar that way. The actual name can be different, but the properties of the field should be the same. So customer ID, short text, size 4. This is our key, so I'm going to click up here and turn that on. SC no should be size 6. And at this point, I'm going to save this. And I'm going to call it Service Contracts. And I'm going to click OK. Now, looking at that little figure, I can see that they wanted quite a few of the short text fields in the customer table adjusted. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let me right-click on Customer and go into Design View. So we adjusted Customer ID, but we didn't do any of the other ones. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust first name. And I'm using the sizes that are at the top of page 8 in the graphical figure that they've provided. So for this one, first name is size 20. And last name is size 30. Street is size 35. City, that is size 25. State, typically size 2. And zip code varies. This one is going to be the 10-digit zip, so you're going to have 5 digits, a dash, and 4 additional ones. Home phone is size 14. Cell phone, also size 14. And then for the yes, no, we don't have to worry about changing the size. Now, because we changed all these sizes, we do need to hit save. And then I'm going to close customers. And I've already made all the adjustments to service contracts. So I'm going to save that and close that as well. And I'm moving on to table 3, which I'm going to create work orders for that one. So I'm going to go to Create and Table Design. And I'm just going to quickly key in the fields and then go back and change the properties. Now comments is long text, so I just did an L for that. And at this point, I've got all of the fields, and now I'm going to go back and adjust the properties. So work order is the primary key. I'll go ahead and turn that on. And I'm going to adjust the size down here to 5. And customer ID, we've seen this in other tables. Obviously, this is going to be the field that we're going to join the tables on. So we're making that size 4, so it's consistent. Tech ID is size 2. And the other short text field is description, and that should just remain 255. So let's go ahead and save. And we're going to call this one work orders. And then we can close out of that one. And we're going to create the 4th and final table. And so again, same procedure. And it looks like all of these are short text. So I'm going to just quickly key them in. I'll fix the spelling of that in a second. All right, so we've got tech ID, social security number, first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, home, phone. Kind of correct that little error there. And cell phone. Now we're going to go through, we'll start up with tech ID, that is the key, and that is going to be size 2. Social security number, that is size 11. First name, size 20. Last name, size 30. Street is 35. City is 25. State is 2. Zip is 10. Home phone is 14, and cell phone is also 14. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and save, and we're going to call it technicians. And you may be wondering why we go through and make the adjustment to the size. Part of the reason is so that the data is more accurate, especially for things like state that are only supposed to be 2 digits. Because if they're keying in something wrong, they aren't going to be able to finish keying in. It'll stop them at 2 and give them a warning. The second reason is that when we generate forms and reports using the wizards, those features actually look at the size and adjust the size of the entry area for a form or the display area in a report, the actual column, to match the size. Okay, so there's several reasons for adjusting size. So I'm going to save and close. And at this point, we are done with the first section. So we're going to move on to our next exercise.